Hey, good morning. I'm John F. Gately. You can call me Jack, broadcasting to you from beautiful Plymouth, Massachusetts. Great to be with you today. Happy Tuesday. It's been a couple of days. I know I had something important to do yesterday, family obligation. And isn't that the way we get there? And my family member who was in charge of this event or this obligation screwed it all up, and we didn't have to go anyways. So yeah, but that's part of life, right? So that's the way it is. Yeah, it's just the way the cookie crumbles. So I could have been with you yesterday morning. Now, being the mature person that I am, I could have used that to put a huge guilt trip, as you know, my Irish heritage has taught me. But I just did a little miniature guilt trip on my family member who screwed me over yesterday and required me to cancel my live show. So, but no, I love them, and human. We're all flawed, right? We're all flawed, and I'll get over it, and someday I'll forgive them. No. I know you missed me. Oh my God, did you? You totally missed me yesterday morning. I know you did. But I'm back today. I am back today, and I don't know how you've been able to do it, but somehow you made it through another day with the government closed. I am so impressed with you. Somehow you made it through the day with the government closed. Boston.com was even forced to run this article. Readers say they aren't impacted by the government shutdown. Here's why. And the subhead is, I cut the waste and fraud out of government down to our budget is. My God, this is by the way, this is owned by the Boston Globe, if you don't know. I say cut the waste and fraud out of the government down until our budget is spending less than the taxes we already pay. Live within your means, right? This will have to be scrubbed from the website shortly thereafter. They cannot allow this to stand over at Boston.com, owned by the Boston Globe. And look, they did a little reader poll. Are you impacted by the government shutdown? 68%. There's not a lot of, this is a very small responding poll here. Heard from so few people care about it. Only got 136 responses, but overwhelmingly nobody cares, and they're not impacted. So somehow you survived the last day or so without the federal government, and every day that goes by that you survive without the federal government is like a victory, right, for us, because of course, the longer they realize that they're not needed, the stronger our hand gets. Today is also October 7th, and it's the 2-year anniversary of the horrific Hamas terrorist attack upon Israelis 2 years ago today, October 7th. Now, I know you don't come here for this show to hear analysis on this, and I know it will be all over the airwaves today, but of course that was a massive impact upon life in the Middle East, and a huge impact upon that domestic and foreign U.S. policy. So huge landmark date, we'll just call it, and there'll be quite a bit on the news today and other outlets to commemorate the horrific events of October 7th. I just want to kind of chime in with my 2 cents so that you know how I feel about it. So, but it is today, and it does merit a commemoration. All right, starting off the day with stupid idea of the day comes from the Boston City Council. Of course it does. City councilors pitch government-run grocery stores championed by New York socialist mayoral candidate. So, of course, Zoran famously wants government-run grocery stores. And the funny part is that they don't add the socialist label to the Boston City Councilors because they are also socialists. And of course, what's the difference, class, between a socialist and a communist? The only difference is how they spell the word. That's it. It's the same thing. Oh, no, there's giant philosophical difference. No, there's not. They're commies. They're all commies. That's exactly what they are. And Zoran looks as if he's headed over to become mayor of New York. God bless those folks in New York. As some of you might know, I love going to Manhattan. Like, going to Manhattan is one of my favorite things. I love going there, but I am not looking forward to a Zoran administration. I'll tell you that. That's for sure. But that is most certainly stupid idea of the day. Boston City Councilors pitch city-owned grocery stores or whatever baloney that is. Good morning, Jack. Buck says, you've reposted. Well, very nice of you, Buck. Thank you very much. Happy Tuesday. Good to have you with us. Oh, look at this. Is going around. Thank you, Ron. And thank you very much. Good morning, Ron. And thank you, Angry Survivor. Very nice of you three. All three of you did that. Well, that's very nice of you. Thank you. I suppose I'm supposed to ask you to do that, but I always feel awkward doing that. But thank you for taking the initiative yourselves, and I appreciate you doing that. Thank you so much. That's nice. And we are noticing right now the number is a little bit higher than it usually is at this time of the show. So thanks for that. All right. So yesterday I wrote a story over at johnfgately.com, and I was shocked about the what do you call the metrics or the social media, whatever that this kind of took on organically. I read this really obscure report from the state government over the weekend, and I posted this first thing on Monday morning. Healy administration, power grid needs $25 billion upgrade over the next 25 years to achieve green mandates. Investments would likely lead to significant increases in Massachusetts electric bills. All right, so what's the TLRDR, whatever that thing is? What's the nutshell here? The nutshell is, because of the green mandates like net zero, right? Because of those, shifting people, especially away from natural gas and home heating oil for their homes, and pushing electric heat pumps on homes, especially that, demand is going to go up in the winter, expected to increase in the winter for electricity by 74% over the next 20 years. I know that's shocking. And all of this is because of the religion of climate change. The religion of climate change and the suicidal net zero mandates. And because of all of that, because of the demand for electricity, the government mandated demand, I think we should call it that, they're going to have to pour a boatload of money into the grid, or the grid's not going to work. The grid ain't going to work. There's another word for that: blackout or brownout. But let's just go with blackout. There's also a bunch of green energy projects, battery installations, wind farms, all that stuff that need to connect to the grid to feed our religious fervor. And that's going to need investment. And I read this report and I was like, oh my God, they are absolutely positively admitting, and this is a Healy administration report from the Department of Public Utilities. They are absolutely positively going to admit that, and this is a quote from the Healy administration report, it will likely lead to significant increases in electric bills. So I went down to my local substation, took this picture. This is not a report that your average person would read because it's insanely boring. So I read it for you. In Massachusetts, net zero mandates set an ambitious greenhouse gas reduction targets, requiring the Commonwealth to reduce greenhouse emissions by 50% by 2030. By 2030? 2030? Well, hold on. Let me check my calendar. That's 5 years from now. We're not going to do that. So that's according to the Environmental League of Massachusetts. Mandates are driving demand, which ISO New England predicts will increase nearly 30% over the next 20 years. That's on a regular day. On a regular day, 30%. Winter demand, prompted by mandatory conversion to heat pump technology and other things like that, is expected to jump by 74%, as I told you earlier. That's from a current 23 gigawatt all-time record to 40 gigawatts by 2045. That's because everyone's going to have one of those stupid heat pump things on the side of their house instead of an oil burner, right? That is the dream of these climate criminals that want to basically cripple us. When I said this is net zero is a suicidal mandate, it is absolutely a suicidal. It's insane. And from saving the planet, it doesn't even move the needle. And even if you could argue it moves the needle, anybody that argues it moves the needle in terms of saving the planet never actually factors the cost of saving the planet. In the same way, the stupid farm-to-table people never factor the negatives of like growing stuff locally. They only add in the positives. You know, when you're trying to do a net analysis, you got to have the positives and the negatives. They never factor the negatives. It's only the positives. Everything is so inherently dishonest because, as President Trump said, it's a scam, the biggest scam going. And it's a massive wealth transfer from me and you to all sorts of donors and big, mostly foreign European companies that fund these wind farm installations and all the battery technology. All of that is a massive wealth transfer to people who could not come up with a better mousetrap. If they had a better mousetrap, they wouldn't need all of these government subsidies. But thankfully for Trump, they're starting to get those subsidies cut, right? The gravy train is starting to get derailed. And hopefully, I mean, can you imagine if Trump didn't win, right? Thank God for Trump, right? And all of us who voted for Trump, right? Some of us didn't vote for Trump. Even some of us Republicans. I know of one Republican who did not vote for Trump. Right? In fact, he didn't vote for anybody. The point is, if it wasn't for Trump, we'd be this gravy train would be in ninth gear, and this suicidal climate technology scam would be dialed up to 11. Fortunately for Trump, this entire thing is starting to crumble. And good job, Secretary of Energy, for pulling the plug. He just pulled the plug on $7.5 billion of the scam. There's a lot more of the scam to be dismantled. Mass Fiscal yesterday, riffing off the governor's post. Bringing down energy bills means bringing more energy to Massachusetts. Stop right there. Wait a second, Maura. You killed 2 pipelines. You killed 2 pipelines, Maura. Don't preach to us about bringing more energy to Massachusetts. I'm not even going to read the rest of that post. Mass Fiscal responds, mandating ratepayers pay for expensive, politically connected alternative energy sources doesn't bring down prices. Can I get an amen to that? Thank you, Mass Fiscal. Absolutely. Thank you. Somebody sent me this. Look, there's the largest gas reserves in the United States, just over there in Pennsylvania and West Virginia, right over there. And look at where the gas shortage is, right next door. Only if we could have, I don't know, 2 pipelines to deliver it to Massachusetts. Don't tell me, Maura, that you're all about more energy, that you're all about more of all of the above. That is not true. You are not in favor of all of the above. You're in favor of your green energy scam, which is not a better mousetrap. Look, we have all this natural gas, literally, a car ride away, and you stop 2 pipelines. Stop lying to us. They call it gaslighting. Well, I guess that really is gaslighting because you stopped 2 pipelines. The other day, there was a reporter up at Hanscom where Maura Healey met the energy secretary kind of quietly on the QT, and the reporter asked, "What's your approach to energy?" And she said, "All of the above." And then the reporter followed up and said, "Does that include coal?" And she said, No, not coal." Right? Because she's not all of the above. And just the other day, New England's last coal plant has stopped operating, according to its owners. This is in Bow, New Hampshire. It's now been retired. Yeah, from what I understand, if you were to build a new coal plant today, and let's just say the permitting was possible, from what I understand, the technology relative to burning coal is light years better than it was even 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. So the fact that we theoretically can't burn coal, that's a no-no, that's ridiculous. You know that map I just showed you about where the natural gas is? That's also basically where the coal is. Plus, out in Colorado and Wyoming, we got boatloads of coal out there, too. 1 second, sip of tea. Going with the constant comment Bigelow this morning in the Yeti. Yeah. What do you drink? Put it in the comments. I know this is kind of like a ploy that everyone, but put it in the comments. What are you drinking today? I'm curious. All right. So talk about Mass Fiscal. They reminded me of this video that I guess is more and more relevant, because we're talking about energy policy, and what energy policy, especially if you're building solar arrays, they cut down a lot of trees, right? You're putting solar arrays over cranberry bogs. They're cutting down trees in Western Massachusetts to put up solar arrays. But the good news is that forests are starting to grow in unexpected places. Forests are starting to grow, like in Boston. Take a listen.
Those of you who are watching TV at night dismayed by what's going on, I understand that dismay. I understand the concern.
When we see riots erupt against ICE in Los Angeles, California, we remember Maura Healey's past cheerleading of this type of response.
America's burning, but that's how forests grow.
That's how forests grow. I think I just saw a forest sprout up at the corner of Tremont and Mass Ave over the weekend. Didn't I? I saw a beautiful forest grow there Sunday night. Didn't you? It was a gorgeous forest. And I think I saw another forest sprout up somewhere in Randolph. And yeah, it's just lovely, isn't it? I love a good forest when a forest grows. It's just lovely. She said this in June of 2022, apparently to the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce. Imagine telling, some small business owner or some any business owner that, yeah, a brick went through your plate glass window and they stole all the sneakers. But hey, that's how forests grow. Shut up, plebe. Right? That's basically Maura Healey's policy, because if you hadn't noticed, Boston it's not looking good. The other day, some woman run into CVS, attacked an employee in the back bay, attacked an employee. Here she is here. Mass Daily News also reports exclusive shocking photos reveal secret drug den under Charles Gate East, right? Filled with propane tanks. What could happen to propane tanks? I don't know. They could explode under a roadway, right? And in fact, there was a previous fire. Thank you, Mass Daily News, for these photos. There was a previous fire in 2024, just last year. I can see another forest grow. And I have information that there are other locations, like over near the BU Bridge and other places like that, where there are similar people. And sadly, and my heart breaks for them because they probably need mental health counseling. They might need mandatory drug treatment. But of course, we don't force people to mandatory drug treatment here in Massachusetts because that's cruel. We have to give them a house first for free with no strings attached. Housing first. That just enables the drug use. And of course, they're also victims of the fact that there's no enforcement of the drug laws, basically. Why does Wu run around saying Boston is the safest city in America? Why does she say that? Because she doesn't arrest people to begin with. That's how you get data like that. You don't enforce the law. When you don't enforce the law, it doesn't show up in the data. And then you could say, oh, look we're the safest city in America. That's exactly what the grift is. That's exactly what the grift is. And great job, Mass Daily News, for coming up with that story. In the meantime, Channel 5 isn't buying it either. Wow, a little chink in the armor here. And that Channel 5 says cruisers torched as part of staged attacks on mass police officers, officials say. Here's the thing. Because they've arrested these two interlopers from Rhode Island. The simple fact of the matter is, if the political leadership put real priority on enforcing the law, there would be there'd be some effort, probably might not even take that much, to monitor social channels for conversations about what do they call these things? Meetups or whatever the hell, the riots, for upcoming riots, vehicle riots at 2:00 in the morning, right? There you could switch your dials on your listening station and say, okay, who's talking about a meetup at 2:00 on Instagram publicly, right? Not sharing private messages, but publicly talking about it. Oh, they're going to have a meetup at 2:00 at the corner of Tremont and Mass Ave. Huh. I know. Why don't we be there at 1:00? So when they show up at 2:00, we've got 50 state troopers looking down at them, right? If our political leaders wanted to stop this, it would be stopped. And understand, just like Rush taught me 30-something years ago, this will not stop. It must be stopped. It must be stopped. In other words, you have to take, God, I hate this word. I'll use it anyway, proactive steps to stop this type of activity. Thanks for joining us today. We have hundreds of people. Wow, things will happen. Yes, things will happen. Forests are growing everywhere. That is absolutely true. Yes. And Jason says, I believe Healy is in favor of natural gas, but it doesn't pay her enough like green energy does. I don't think she's in favor of natural gas. On any given day, natural gas provides about 60% of our electricity, and she wants that percentage to go way down. That's not in favor of natural gas. She's not in favor of natural gas. She wants to absolutely positively reduce our natural gas. She killed two pipelines, of which she's proud of. And theoretically, she's walked back these comments or expressed her regret for the forest grow comment. But that's really how she feels, right? When in June of 2020, if you remember it, fever was high, and she just fed right into it. Boston Globe PitchBot for the absolute truth analysis here. This is not parody, this particular post. You haven't heard about this because reporting on urban disorder and chaos is generally embargoed by the elite media, like the Boston Globe. Doing so is coded as right-leaning, anti-establishment, and thus, by elite algebra, racist. That is exactly right. That is exactly right. If you were like some cub reporter at the Globe and you wrote up this story on your own and you brought it into your editor, they would look at you as if you were a racist. And of course, Boston Globe PitchBot, your first crime is noticing, right? Always noticing is the first crime. How dare you notice? How dare you notice? Like, as in WGBH said, bringing a camera to Mass and Cass is like bringing a weapon to Mass and Cass. Ridiculous, because your first crime is always noticing. Whether it's this here in Boston or in Soviet Russia, if you blurt it out loud that you have plenty of ration coupons, but the shelves are empty, you can't say that. Your first crime is noticing. There's a famous scene in Dr. Zhivago, by the way, a fantastic movie, where he finally makes it home to Russia, to Moscow, and he walks in his house and he says something like, there's somebody sick on the stairwell in his house that has now been taken over by the proletariat because of justice. And he sees this child and they're clearly sick. And he says, oh, I've heard there's typhoid in Moscow. And they all go, oh, it's not typhoid. And then he's like, oh, I understand. We're all lying about typhoid. It's not typhus or whatever he calls it. Right? The first crime is noticing. Very good job, Boston Globe PitchBot. All of the candidates, I'm pretty sure all of the candidates roasted the governor and the mayor. Here's Mike Minogue. What happened in the South Bend this weekend is terrible. Governor's role is to uphold the law and keep our citizens safe. Attacking police officers and destroying property is criminal. We need to back law enforcement to keep our communities safe. Not only do we need to back them, but I think we need a governor and a mayor that says, okay, we need to prioritize this. We need to prioritize this. There's a lot being made about Trump sending the National Guard here, there, and everywhere, right? We don't necessarily need Trump to send the National Guard to Massachusetts. We just need a new governor, right? Because with the new governor, we can put Massachusetts National Guard under the command of the Massachusetts governor on the street, like at Mass and Cass. We can put state troopers on the street, boots on the ground, at like Mass and Cass, because it's clear the mayor will not enforce the law. It's Amsterdam down there. It's Amsterdam down there, if you know what I'm saying. So look it up if you don't know what Amsterdam is. It's Amsterdam down there, and the mayor's not going to enforce it. She's not going to fix this problem under Charles Gate Bridge unless she has to. We don't need a new mayor. We just need a new governor. Same thing. We didn't need a new amnesty bill. We just needed a new president. Same thing. Congratulations to the FBI, since we're talking about crime and forests growing. FBI announces Operation Summer Heat results. Well, it's a little late. The summer's over. But good for them. They arrested 400 people in New England. And hundreds. This is just the New England numbers, if I'm not sure, out of the Boston office. 404 people, 129 drug seizures. Great job. 8,600 arrests nationwide. in New England, identified or located 27 children. Wow, excellent. Great job, Boston FBI office and FBI nationwide. I know the FBI takes a huge beating from time to time, as is justified in many occasions. But of course, new leadership now. And remember us Republicans, every day we live in Massachusetts. But remember, we're the majority. I know sometimes it's hard to remember that, but we are the majority. Thank you so much for joining us today. Great to have literally hundreds of you. I'm shocked anybody listens to this show at all, but thank you. Really, it's really super nice of you. So another sip, and then we'll get to our next story. All right. So I saw this post yesterday, and some of you might have caught over the weekend, Saturday or something like that. I put up the numbers that I had at the moment from Kennealy and short sleeve, because those are the only numbers I had at the moment. Minogue, God, no disrespect. I still haven't gotten your name right. He didn't file a report because I think technically he didn't announce until October 1st, and technically he's not going to report any contributions until that date. But I put up the report about how much each candidate raised and spent and how much they had. And I didn't have the Healy numbers because that report wasn't, but she raised some more money, of course. And she's got like 3.8 million approximately in the bank. She's way ahead of everybody. But then on Monday, I saw this post by Michael Kennealy, and I was like, this is just disingenuous. After last month's surge of support, our movement has officially surpassed $1 million in cash on hand. This campaign is about returning power to the people, not keeping it in the hands of Healy and her failed ideology, which, of course, we just talked about. The problem with this is, Michael, you've donated loaned $1.2 million to your campaign. So I don't see the surge of support. I ask myself this question: where would your campaign be without this loan/donation? Which, by the way, is, in your own words, according to your own financial reports, pending legal determination. Is the technical phrase. If you look up the OCPF report, right next to where it says Mike Kennealy loaned his campaign $200,000, it says pending legal determination. That's because theoretically, you're only supposed to be able to loan your committee up to $200,000. You can donate to your committee anything you want. I'm pretty sure there's no limit on that. That's like First Amendment speech thing. But you can only loan your committee $200,000. That's my understanding. That's the conventional wisdom on that. The Kennealy campaign, how do I want to say this fairly? The Kennealy campaign is challenging that conventional wisdom. I think that's a fair way to say it. They're challenging that conventional wisdom. But whether you've donated it or loaned it, don't tell me it's a surge of support, because it's all from one household. If you had $1 million in the bank and you raised it by collecting small donor donations, $50, $60, $80, whatever, that would be a surge of support. But don't throw in $1.2 million into your own bank account and then tout that you have $1 million and tell me that that's some type of surge of support. That's not a surge. That's called AstroTurf. So that's don't lie to me. Yeah, that's all I'm asking. Now, the Herald is out this morning with a scathing article and headline. I was shocked by the headline. Mike Kennealy plans to continue ignoring Massachusetts law loan limit, lawyer tells regulators. There's Mike. And when you read this, and there's a letter, which which we are not. We are not going to go through the letter. But fortunately, Christopher and Buzzkirk gets the most important part of the letter from his lawyer, whose name is Ashby. As a technical legal matter, the law prohibits the candidates committee from repaying more than $200,000 of a candidate loan. In other words, the lawyer is saying a candidate can loan any amount, but the campaign can only pay back $200,000 maximum. I'm like, yeah, that sounds disingenuous. That sounds like maybe not technically cheating, but to me, it sounds like a violation of the spirit of the law. And if you want to donate money to your campaign, that's the First Amendment. Knock yourself out. I'm guessing lots of people donate to the campaign. I'm guessing Mr. Minogue will donate a boatload of money to the campaign, to his own campaign. I got no problem with that. But don't tell us it's a surge of support. And if you want to, don't say you need a loan. The reason why, and this is covered in this article. It's covered in this article. I don't know how they actually state it in the article, but it's been covered in this article, and I believe it's covered in other articles. Heaven forbid, how do we want to say this? Tragedy was to strike. There would be an ability for the Kennealy campaign theoretically to recoup some of this loan. But, my feeling is that if donating this much, if loaning this much of money to your campaign technically puts your family in some type of fiscal jeopardy, you probably shouldn't be loaning your campaign that much money. And it does make it look as if you're, how do we want to say this, parsing the law to the point of absurdity and tiptoeing maybe up to and maybe a little bit over the line. Certainly not a good look optically from a political point of view. All right, we will not go over the lawyer letter at all. And by the way, since we're talking about electoral issues, Lawrence has put an election worker on paid leave amid absentee ballot complaint. Well, I was told that was impossible. Voter fraud is impossible. That's from what I understood. It would never occur in Lawrence or in Plymouth, would it? Would it occur in Plymouth? Yeah. It could occur anywhere. Voter fraud. I love it how the people who are against voter ID, there's no voter fraud. That's because we don't have the mechanism in place really to yet detect it. That's why we want to have voter ID so we can detect it. See how that works? That's like, for people who say there's no voter fraud, that the analogous situation here would be to eliminate the speed limit and then argue that no one is speeding. It's the same thing, right? It's the same thing. If we got rid of all the speed limits, then they could argue, hey, nobody's speeding. It's the same thing like in Boston. You stop enforcing the law, and all of a sudden, it's the safest big city in America. Same thing. I don't think I've mentioned Brian Shortsleeve in a positive note today, so let's do that very quickly. Or I don't know if have I mentioned him at all. Well, anyways, here's the third mention. Because credit is due on this one here. Karen Spilka, the Senate president. You gotta. These people are incredibly slippery, and Brian nailed it here. I took note of Senate President Spilka's comments this weekend that I'm not talking about taxes right now. Right now being the operative for give her time. Yes, exactly, short sleeve. Absolutely. Give her time. She will talk about taxes soon enough. Yes. And there's going to be huge pressure. We've mentioned this before. Huge pressure to increase your local taxes, Proposition 2.5, the whole thing, all your local option tax. Huge pressure as the state gets effed up more and more because they're way over budget, that they're going to push this pressure down to the municipalities, and there's going to be huge pressure to raise additional local taxes on a town-by-town basis. That's just where we're going with that. All right, so since we've talked about all three candidates, here's my 2 cents about where the race stands now. The next big thing are the caucuses that should be in the dead of winter, probably February. The Rules Committee, from what I understand, has still not solidified the date. And from what I understand, you have a window to set the date sometime probably in the dead of winter. And when they do that, they'll probably also apportion each town a certain number of delegates, which is, there's some formula for that. And then the candidates off and running and trying to elect slates at their local Republican town committees for the caucus. And of course, whoever gets elected at the caucus goes to the convention, and you need 15% at the convention to advance to the ballot. And that seems possible. The back of the envelope conventional wisdom right now in terms of this race is that the entrance of Minogue hurts short sleeve and elevates Kennealy. Oh, Jack, why would that be? Well, Kennealy is the least Trump person running for governor. Like, he didn't even vote for Trump. He didn't vote for anybody. He blanked it. He could have wrote somebody. I'd have more respect for him if he just wrote in anybody. Like, even if he wrote in Mickey Mouse, he could have wrote anybody. Even if he wrote, I don't know, let's just say something crazy. But even if he wrote Charlie Baker, I'd have more respect, but he left it blank. Left it blank. So he's the least Trump guy. Then there's short sleeve. I voted for the ticket. Short sleeve doesn't even want to say Trump. And then there's Minogue, who seems as if he's a Trump guy. I noticed he raised a lot of money for Trump. So if you're anti-Trump, and there's a big contingent in the Republican Party that's anti-Trump, they're going to go with Kennealy. And if you're a Trump person, you're probably going to go in a Minogue, which leaves short sleeve in the middle. That's kind of the back of the envelope conventional wisdom at the moment. Although I would say that short sleeve has been running, in my opinion, the last couple of weeks, been running a decent campaign. But the conventional wisdom right now is that this third entrant is actually going to steal some of that short sleeve momentum. Plus, if there's something to be believed about the poll that we saw the other day, that there's still a lot of people that were looking for another candidate. All right, do we have any more comments here? Let's see. Ron says, looks like Michael Kennealy split the $1 million in 200,000 deposits over several months. Yes, that is true. I think there were 6 deposits for $1.2 million. As a former auditor, that smells splitting wire transfer to stay below the reporting. Well, all of it has to be reported, so that I don't think he's dodging the reporting requirement. He's just not putting it all in at once. Excellent news. Massachusetts needs you. Thank you, Denise. Thank you. And Massachusetts needs you too. Get out and vote. Register as a Republican if you're not already. All right. So yesterday, enough talking about the Republicans. Yesterday over at johnfgately.com, if you didn't see this, you've got to go see this article. Pro-white invasion activist. Too many white people are calling 911 when they see ICE. I know. Adding armed police officers to the scene can escalate panic. Cops cause panic. Cops cause panic, according to Rebecca Winter at Mass 50501, and lead to even more harm done. We protect each other. This is like a vigilante call to justice. And here's Rebecca Winter here. By the way, this screen grab occurred completely by accident. I was listening to the video. I hit pause, and then I went back to look at it like a minute later, and it paused on this. So I was like, that's the thumbnail. That's the thumbnail. She's the organizer of the No Kings rally. No Kings, and apparently no cops either for far left activist Rebecca Winter of Mass 5001 or whatever the hell they call it. Don't call 911. I've seen this call to action lately, and it usually by people with my skin color, you white people. Police are not allowed to interfere with ICE abductions and at most will come to do crowd control. Understand what she's asking here. She doesn't want you to call 911 if you see a ICE abduction, because instead, in this video, she asks you to call the Luce ICE hotline. The ICE hotline based in Worcester, run by Delita Roca, Healy's appointee to the Board of Education. She wants you to call the ICE hotline so that these Lucy activists can go over there and interfere with the feds and not be crowd controlled by the local cops. That's exactly what the scenario is that they're setting up. You see, as far as they're concerned, what happened at Eureka Street in Worcester back earlier this year was the fact that the cops showed up to restore order. After all, Counselor Edel Hajii wouldn't have been charged with obstructing that day, and she's facing charges in Worcester District Court, if the cops never showed up. So they don't want the cops showing up because cops cause panic and harm. Instead, they want, in a vigilante way, they want to be able to show up, interfere with ICE operations, and not have the local Leos show up. Because these commies can show up with 50 or 60 anti-ICE activists at a drop of a hat because they don't really have jobs and obstruct, like the 10 ICE people that are trying to do something, trying to arrest some criminal or non-criminal, just anybody that's here illegally. And, you get 50 or 60 really determined protesters with no local cops against 5 or 6 ICE agents, and the protesters are probably going to be successful in thwarting your arrest. And that's what they want. That's exactly what they want. And here it is here. At the end of the video, she says, we must protect each other.
If you see ICE, don't call 911. I've seen this as a call to action lately, and it's usually by people with my skin color. ICE usually lets local police departments know when they will be in the area. Even in areas where police are against ICE's tactics, as many of our officers in Massachusetts are, police are not allowed to interfere with ICE abductions, and at the most, they will just come to do crowd control. ICE is particularly targeting Black and brown immigrants. These communities have,
because of course ICE is racist,
historically had real harm done to them by law enforcement. And when their communities are already in a state of panic over masked armed,
their communities, not your communities, masked armed men
violently snatching them off the streets, adding armed police officers to
armed police. We need social workers.
The scene can escalate panic and lead to even more harm done. Now, I know those of you calling for police oversight have good intentions, and I wish it were effective.
You nice white people, you have good intentions, you nice white people.
But please respect that frontline orgs are asking you to not call 911.
The Pull-Up Bureau is telling you not to call 911.
So what can you do? If you're in Massachusetts and see ICE, call the Luce hotline at 617-370-5023. They will document, verify, and alert neighborhood watch groups.
No, they won't. what they will do is they'll send people out there to protest ICE. They'll send people out there to do this.
Please don't touch me. Please do not touch me.
There's the failed Worcester City Council, failed Worcester School Committee candidate, Ashley Spring, leaning against the ICE vehicle, obstructing ICE, and they want to be able to go do this without the local police showing up.
Come on, we need to step away. This is my constituent. No,
This is my constituent.
do not touch me. Do not touch me.
I need you to go over there.
I need you to
You're
not touch
obstructing
me.
a federal arrest.
You are obstructing a federal arrest. By the way, Edel Hajii just made a motion to have these charges dropped. And from what we understand from the court record, the judge is reviewing the body cam footage. Today, BUR runs a glorious article celebrating these people as ICE ramps up activity in Massachusetts. This group bears witness. They don't bear witness. If they were just standing on the sidewalk, taking notes and filming, that would be one thing. But that's not what they're doing. This is what they're doing. They're throwing themselves on the hood of vehicles. They're throwing themselves on the hood of vehicles to stop ICE. And now they don't want the local police around so that they can be charged. This is what they're doing. Here is a perfect. This is the failed school committee candidate literally throwing herself on top of the ICE vehicle. And that's a quote from Leah Foley, the U.S. attorney. This activity should be vilified rather than glorified. So they just don't want police there so that they can cause havoc. Who caused the chaos? They caused the chaos. The chaos and the panic isn't caused by the police. It's caused by these vigilante ICE activists, anti-ICE activists. Meanwhile, Neighbor to Neighbor, who raises the money, Neighbor to Neighbor raises the money. And the last time I checked, Neighbor to Neighbor was run by Delita Roca, who is appointed to the Board of Education by Maura Healey. Last time I checked, Neighbor to Neighbor is very upset about the government shutdown. They're actually the financial conduit for the Luce ICE hotline. They're the financial conduit for the Luce ICE hotline. They're very upset about the government shutdown because they want Medicare. They want health care for illegal aliens. Can't make this stuff up, right? Here they are here, just in late September. Bogus charges meant to scare people from doing what is right. We just saw the video. Does this look like doing what is right? Does grasping the hands of an ICE target, somebody at the ICE is trying, thwarting federal authority, does that look like doing what is right? Shut up. Shut up. Stop. Let's see. Edel Hajii has been charged with assault with battery of a Worcester police officer. Yes, thank you, Ron, for the precision on that. And if you're not following Ron, he is following the case quite precisely. So please follow Ron for more updates on that case. Thank you, Ron, for that. Just unbelievable. Let's see here. We're not going to get into this because it's not a Maine show, but did you see what happened in Maine yesterday? So just quick backstory. A week ago or whatever, somebody received a box of Amazon delivery, and inside it were bundles of ballots inside their Amazon delivery. So they ordered, I don't know, a bar of soap or whatever from Amazon, whatever they ordered. And in it, like in the packaging material, were ballots from the state of Maine. I know. And like, well, how did ballots get in an Amazon box randomly? How did that happen? How is there not an accounting for every single ballot that was distributed in the state of Maine? Right? So, Secretary of State in Maine, Bellows, had a press conference. And as soon as she started discussing the Amazon package ballot scandal, oh, what do you know? The stream has ended. Like, this is 2-bit dictatorship stuff. Absolutely. And so Maine Wire asked her some questions, or tried to ask her some questions. Notice how the rest of the Maine media, and I do use that generously, tries to pretend nothing's going on. So here she is. This is Shanna Bellows, if you're not familiar with her, in the blue blazer, and that's some type of stenographer in the red sweater.
Thanks.
Madam Secretary, are you indicating that you're saying that the Maine Wire is not a news source?
You're running against me. That's okay.
You're running against me? The reporter from the Maine Wire is running against Bella? That's news to me.
Okay.
I'm not running. How am I running against you? How am I running against you?
I know you're.
And all the other photogs, all the other reporters, they just stand there like stenographers, like this isn't a story.
You're welcome. One of my opponent's races. It's okay.
No,
It's okay.
I don't believe that's the case, man.
And now you see there's a lot of reporters there. Now, to this reporter's Maine Wire guy here, he's smart. He follows her.
No, you made the comment that the Maine Wire is a blogger. You can't comment on that?
And she just walks away. And these guys are just packing up their cameras. Nothing's happening. Oh, she's walking that way. Oh, now she's got to walk this way.
I'm sorry. Madam Secretary, I think you have that wrong.
What? I don't know why he is walk. Why don't you walk forward towards her? So it's just ridiculous. Like, a bunch of ballots showed up in an Amazon box. There should be some type of explanation. And if you're not following the Maine Wire on this story, it is just pure glorious. Because I was told voter fraud was impossible. It's impossible. It's impossible in Lawrence. It's impossible in Maine. And voter fraud is most certainly impossible in Plymouth. Thank you for joining us. Wow, we had a huge crowd today. We'll be back tomorrow at 8 a.m. Thanks very much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.